watching the Property Show, and today we do a deep dive into Mumbai's redevelopment potential, the challenges, wins and benefits. Now, redevelopment of old buildings and societies is a critical way to create housing stock in an island which is quite land-starved. And clearly, this is a lucrative business. A string of large corporate developers like Mahindra, Tata, Godrej have entered the redevelopment fray. We are asking today what kind of housing stock will be created in Mumbai and at what price as the number of developers getting into redevelopment rises. Joining me for the discussion, Boman Rustom Irani, Chairman and MD, Rustomjee Group and President, CREDAI, MCHI, Arvind Subramanian, Managing Director and CEO at Mahindra Lifespace Developers, and Rajiv Mishra, Principal at Sir JJ College of Architecture. All right, my first question is, of course, to the company which has announced its fray into this business. Arvind, Mahindra has finally taken the plunge and announced that it is going to develop 2 societies, and that has a revenue potential of about 500 crore. My question is, what took you so long?
Finally is the key word, as you said it. It has taken a while to get here. We did announce our intent to foray into society redevelopment almost a year back. One must bear in mind that these decision processes from the society's end tend to be very laborious and involved. There are more reasons not to decide than there are reasons to decide. So I'm glad that we finally won this first society redevelopment transaction that we are going to participate in. And I hope it opens the floodgates for many more.
Boman, competition is getting harder for decades. It's your company, Vadva, Kalpatru, Raheja, the Mumbai-focused developers who were, who had cracked the code on redevelopment of societies. But now you have all the big guns blazing for this business. So is their learning curve going to be harder, or do you think that things have really changed a lot and getting into this business, getting it right is actually today much easier than when you started it 2 decades ago?
Manisha, let me tell you, I am actually welcoming all new developers who get into real estate, who get into the redevelopment part of the business. The idea is quite simple. There is so much to do. I just wish that everyone does a great job. Like I've said before, in a residential building, only 100% is complete. And I'm happy when bigger brands, more, all those who have financial controls in place enter this business because they can only grow this business with us. We on our part can only say this, that while the rest of them will be learning, we'll be growing faster thanks to, their entry into this business. And I welcome Arvind, I welcome all the other developers. As a matter of fact, when he won the society, Arvind, you remember, I congratulated you. Okay. And I was quite happy that, you're coming into this space. There is a lot of work to do. We can all keep working 24/7 for the next 10 years, and we might just about rejuvenate this city with many more new developments that the city needs.
I'm looking at the numbers which just flashed on the screen, and Rajiv, come in here and tell me, people are saying there are 15,000 buildings which are in dire need of redevelopment. MADA has turned around and said, we've got around 25 to 30,000 societies telling us that they would like to go in for redevelopment. But, these are all big numbers, and every monsoon we hear of buildings falling down. Why is the process so slow? I mean, even with all the developers coming in, I would agree with Boman that there's so much more which has to be done, and there's such a large potential.
Yes, see, the potential was always there, and one of the good things about redevelopment is that it helps in increasing housing stock. There's a big gap between the demand and supply. But as long as the redevelopment takes place in such a way that the public health does not get affected of the residents, and the supply of affordable housing is increasing, so that people are able to get their share of a better house to live in the city. The second thing is, which I am wanting to warn, is that the infrastructure that is required to take care of this redevelopment on any site has also to be attended to. Most of the times, the occupation certificates and the commencement certificates to these redevelopment projects have to be taken care only when the infrastructure project development goes hand in hand. And if the infrastructure project does not meet its challenges, there will be always parking lots, there will be always traffic jams outside these redeveloped properties. And therefore, one needs to be very careful to design a strategy of redevelopment of old buildings which are dilapidated. And it's a good thing that dilapidated buildings will find a new form. But then we need to be careful.
I know. In fact, we kind of prematurely brought in the concerns, Rajiv, which you are actually pointing out to. So two questions you've raised, and let me get the answers from the developers who are in this business. One is that, look, you can create higher buildings, better living for the residents and more housing stock. But is the housing stock which is going to come, will it come at the right price? And number two, will there be roads to support that kind of, population increase in that piece of land? Arvind, would you like to address how will you approach it? I mean, you've just got into this business. What kind of pricing is possible? Because these are some of the prime locations of Mumbai, which are not cheap at all.
Yes, Manisha, and I think Rajiv teed up a very, very important question. Redevelopment is not just about what happens within the boundary walls of that society. It's very intrinsically linked to the urban planning of that neighborhood and how do you enhance the urban infrastructure, whether it's transportation, water supply, power, sewage, waste disposal. All of these aspects need to work in tandem. It's which is why I think Boman said it's important for credible developers with the ability to achieve financial closure to participate in this space, because through that they will create the surplus that hopefully then the local municipalities can take back into reinvesting back into the local urban infrastructure. The public health aspect that Rajiv raised is also very important. These buildings are being demolished, they're being reconstructed. How do you do that in a way that is safe, that is non-polluting, that is sustainable? What kind of materials do you use? What kind of practices do you use? These are topics that all of us must apply our minds to now.
Boman, you've been in this business for a long time. Talk about the pricing aspect of it. I mean, how do we, even if we have more developers getting into it, is there going to be any effect on the prices of homes? I know it's a very generic question that I asked, but everyone wants to know the answer to. Is there any hope as more housing stock comes into play, prices will moderate in that city?
So let me answer this differently. First of all, I have great respect for what Rajiv sir said. He's absolutely right. Infrastructure needs to be worked on. But when the highest office of the country, that is our, Honorable Prime Minister, was in Mumbai, he mentioned that keeping 88,000 crores by the BMC in interest-bearing bonds or FDs is not exactly the need of the hour. So I think there's got to be a lot more expense that is incurred on Mumbai city. This is the city of gold, right? You need to pump in money out here. If you look at our development charges and all the premiums that we pay, CREDAI MCHI has put across to the government time and again that close to around 28% of the revenue that we collect is going towards, the customer puts in 28% of his money directly into the hands of ULBs and the state government, whether it is GST, whether it is stamp duty, whether it is the various premiums that are paid. Look, you can understand that if there's any kind of relief given out there, it should directly pass on to the hands of the consumer. But more importantly, Manisha, what I want to say is that when you change the home of a person, you're giving that person a better life. For most of the new developments that take place, there's a gym in the building, there's a banquet hall, there are games areas, young children can come down and actually play. They can have the life that we led at one point of time without getting, holed up in their homes. So we create these spaces in our new developments. And you're right, we've been doing redevelopment since the year 2002, and it's been 20 years. Everything that we've learned in this, and I've gone during my IPO and actually said it, that Mumbai is going to open up to redevelopments, and the developers that understand this business, namely us, or like us, would reap the maximum benefit. Having said this, I can tell you more with regards to public transportation. I am very hopeful that the new infrastructure in terms of the metro rails are going to be a fantastic connectivity in the city of Mumbai. People that I know who used to come to our office by cars have ditched it because they jump in Daisar and they land up straight across from our office and walk into our office. I think this will, in time to come, take the load off. The other way to do this is also enable Uber and Ola type taxis to continuously be there. The problem with Mumbai is not so much the cars, it is the cars that are parked. So I would also reach out to the government to say that the car parking norms, if a developer wishes to provide more, should be allowed. Some developers may not want to do it, but the others like us would want to create more parking so that none of the cars go out on the main roads. Now, all of this said, the one thing that will change the game and will make Mumbai, which is what is most important, affordable to a lot more people, is by reducing the premiums. And through your show also, I'd like to reach out to our Honorable CM and DCM. They understand the entire issue. Honorable CM is a Mumbaikar, a Thanekar. He was our UD minister earlier. He's fully abreast of the situation. And our Honorable DCM has got full grip on this issue. I think it's very important they work on it and they give the city a gift by reducing the premiums, thereby allowing developers to bring down the prices.
Okay, it's a big ask, and well, this is the year when your state goes to polls, so hopefully there will be some listening into that request. But do you really think, Rajiv, that just bringing down the premiums will bring larger stock of right-priced homes? I mean, I've been covering this sector now for over a decade, and everybody has the same question to ask. You can keep bringing in stock in the center of Mumbai, but prices, even in the worst period of 2015 to 2020, except for the top end of housing, didn't really crash in Mumbai at all. So when do you get right-priced homes that people can afford to buy?
See, I feel premiums have to be reduced so that it becomes affordable for many people. Second, the public transport network has to be strengthened. I think city is going through intense metro connectivity. I would be believing that if parking requirements may be reduced so that you use public transport, which is just outside your buildings, you are making sense to it. So I think every redevelopment FSI that you are going to use for any project should have a direct connectivity to your public transportation so people don't feel like taking out their own cars. I don't see why they should be using a lot of parking space. You would rather give more open space and more facilities rather than podiums for parking. You have to provide parking. I'm not saying anything against that. But then if you make things so well, like in Singapore or any other developed countries, people just use the metro, they come down the building. New York people do not use much of their cars unless they have to go out to Boston or something. But the idea is, if public transportation is in good place, redevelopment is welcome. Second, dilapidated buildings will find new life and the quality of urban life will improve. I think as long as urbanism is improving, redevelopment is a good idea.
Okay.
But if redevelopment is not reducing the price and affordability of housing, then it is just mere extra supply of housing and people trying or struggling to buy themselves a good living place.
Arvind,
that is what I need to emphasize.
Arvind, would you like to address it? Yes, Rajiv has raised a lot of questions, and you know, it's utopian to expect that you just have to go down from your building. It will happen one day, but it will just take a very long time because literally this is a fully bustling city and you're trying to build public infrastructure through it. It's not an easy process. I'm still asking you a very simple question. I mean, Deputy Chief Minister Mr. Fadnavis has actually turned around and said, I'm going to give a single window clearance to redevelopment, right? They have been making it easier and easier for developers to do this business. What will it take for all of you to be able to give better priced homes to Mumbaikars?
Yeah. So Manisha, let me firstly echo the optimism that Boman had on the metro connectivity. I think that is a game changer in terms of the land economy of a city like Mumbai, which is very space constrained. And not just about the east-west connectivity it brings in, but also if at some stage, and I'm sure it will happen, it gets further extended up north, it starts bringing the more distant suburbs into play. If you can commute into work in 45 minutes, it completely changes the economics of a particular location. To address your question more directly, I think it's important to kind of shed light on something that is a bit of a fallacy or a simplistic notion that customers often have, which is if there is more FSI in a location, it will lead to cheaper supply. Very often in certain locations, depending on the price points, going vertical and going taller actually has an exponential impact on cost. And that is why you don't see prices of homes coming down, because it is not a linear increase when you go from, let's say, a 70-meter building to a 110 or 120-meter building. It is an exponential increase. So, and because that is the kind of simple tool that the urban bodies have in terms of incentivizing redevelopment, saying, look, let me give more FSI, that will solve the problem. Sometimes that ends up being a trap. You build more at much higher cost and then it doesn't really solve the problem. So one has to really balance that out at certain price points. Yes, in a South Mumbai, Central Mumbai, absolutely, because there's enough headroom there to absorb the additional construction cost. But as you move further north or in the central suburbs, that balance is very important to strike.
So you're saying that it's not necessary that if you just take your FSI from 3 to 5 and make taller buildings and bring in more housing supply, will the prices moderate? Interesting. So that there are lots of layers to how housing prices work. But yes, at least the suburbs do have affordable housing or mid-income housing coming up. So just bring them closer to the central business district with better connectivity and better transportation. All right. You know, there's another very important issue. And Boman, I'm going to come and talk to you right after the break. There are many societies which are still on leasehold or on collectorate land, and converting them to freehold is extremely expensive. 60 to 70%. Now, I'm not really sure why would the government not look at bringing these premiums down. It's a huge value unlock for the government and the revenue potential, including the development of the city. So stay with us. We'll come back and address that. We all know land in Mumbai remains a scarce commodity, and one of the crucial ways to create housing and commercial office building stock in Mumbai is to go the redevelopment way. Old buildings, mills, slums are torn down and built again with more efficiency, better use of land and more sustainable practices. Now today we're delving into that and asking if more number of developers join the fray, will it bring in right-priced housing stock? And what we've discussed with Arvind Subramanian, Boman Irani and Rajiv Mishra before the break is that yes, there will be some correction of prices, but not that much. Boman, my question to you is that there is also this little tricky condition for redevelopment that you have to have a clear conveyance deed, which means you have to have freehold land. Now, a lot of Mumbai societies are resting on collectorate land, which to convert is very expensive a process. Would you not go to the government and ask them to bring that premium down?
Manisha, so I think I should tell you that CREDAI and MCHI has already made a representation. There already was in practice till March of last year. By payment of a 15% premium, you could convert societies that were on class 2 lands into class 1 lands. We have put in a request stating that 2 years were lost for COVID and people could not take advantage of this scheme, so it should be brought in again. Last news I had of it was that it was to get clear during the Nagpur session. Of course, we see that that's not happened as yet. I'm hopeful and I will follow up in the coming week to know what exactly has happened. Yes, it is important the government acts fast and allows for societies to be converted into class 1 because, it does become a lot simpler in the longer run if the land is a freehold land. There is no condition that a leasehold land cannot be redevelop, but it does become a lot simpler if this is done. And today, I think the conversion rates are 75%. That's absolutely high, not acceptable at all. And they should be brought down to 15%. A lot of redevelopments that have been tied in are waiting in the wings for this one change to take place by the government. I am hopeful that this takes place, shortly, and we hear the good news from the government itself. Manisha, just to add on the, by the number of developers increasing, will the prices come down? I don't think so. It was not like developers earlier were taking a heftier piece of profit and now they will reduce it. We all work on business plans. We all work on margins that are pre-decided. It's just that by more developers coming in, hopefully more development across the city will take place, and there will be a better choice amongst consumers to be able to make, choices amongst different types of, developments that are taking place. So I just wanted to put that into perspective.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. I think finally I've got my answer, which I've been asking right through the segment 1 as well. But very quickly, we've really not spoken about commercial at all. Arvind, would you look at, redevelopment for commercial as well? Because a lot of people are saying that Mumbai seems to be losing out as a central business district or as a financial capital. Look at the kind of commercial and office space which is coming up in Hyderabad and Bengaluru. What do you do there? What's the plan, or what can be done?
So Manisha, to be candid, we don't have much of a presence in commercial office space. So don't have a first-hand view of that, but the same logic should apply, right? There are old commercial hubs, whether they were the erstwhile industrial galas, etc., in prime areas of the land, which can be redeveloped into very vibrant and conducive living working environments. So the same logic that applies to residential should certainly apply to commercial.
Boman, would you agree? I know even you look at residential, but I mean, that is a large business which is now dominated by foreign funds like Brookfield and Blackstones of the world. And of course, there is Raheja as a major player. But would you not look at redevelopment as a big way to also create a lot of office space in CBD, like a BKC? I mean, you could do more.
You're absolutely right. Mumbai needs, deserves better and more commercial development. We are only getting caught up into taking care of the residential supply. I think certain old industrial areas can also be developed for commercial purposes. Again, the key point would be to reduce the premiums that are charged for commercial developments, because A, they take longer, they are not for sale generally, they get, there's a lease component, which is the right way to do it, so the building gets maintained in the longer run. So cash flows are totally different.
Right.
There should be lower premiums and lower entry or completion costs for it. And Manisha, let me take this opportunity to tell you.
We've run out of time, so 10 seconds.
10 seconds. So very quickly, what the government should do is back end all the premium payments that they are taking from developers so that development in the city can improve. How is that the speed?
That is amazing. And of course, we are looking forward to the union budget. Let's see whether anything is part of the budget for the housing sector. There's a long wish list, at least on cutting some of the taxes, GST and input tax credit rather. We'll wait for that. And of course, thank all of you for joining me, and I ask all our audience to join me again next week to decode the union budget from a perspective of housing and real estate. Goodbye from me, and thanks so much.